Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here then, hi! I've had these plastic things for a long time and I thought, I need something woody. Usually I'd just do it by myself, by my hands and some sort of tool, but I thought, why not cheat for once? Now, this is coming from the mind of Spud. And I put a post out and asked for people's ideas. And this one was a mashup of a platypus and an octopus as a cobbler on the dock. And I was like, that's interesting. I've no idea what to do with this, but it's interesting. So it took me a while to think. And coming up with a story was even harder. But yeah. Settle down, have a couple of biscuits, just chill out and listen to me waffle on, and then I'll tell you a story later on, because apparently it's now GERTCREATES time. Thanks, JD. That's kind of stuck now, that me telling these stories is GERTCREATES time. And for those that don't know, Jackanory was I don't know if it's still going actually, I don't think it is. It was a bedtime story thing, TV thing. So, play on words, Jackanory, GERTCREATES. Yeah. These are going to be table legs, but I need them to be a bit sturdy. So, silly me, I'm putting the wood effect on it first, and then I put the wire in. Because that's obviously the correct way of doing it. Not. You put the wire in, then you do your pattern. So yeah, got some garden wire, just some cheap, I think these are about £1, garden wire. It's supposed to be doing tiny beans and stuff, but it's perfect for this and for the octopus, because I want to be able to bend it into shape when I've got the clay on. And now this is the cheap nasty clay. I keep saying that, yet I keep using it, and it does work out okay. I mean, I quite like this little table. It's not level, but that's fine. He's a cobbler, not a woodworker. Oh yeah, cobbler. Did just say that already, didn't I? I think I did. So I've got my wood effect on. I'm shoving my spike in. Now I left a bit of spike on. Wire, I mean, because I was going to just push it into the top layer, but then I kind of baked them all separately instead of putting it together first, so that kind of didn't work. So I just chopped them off. They're a lot easier. That wire is that thin you can use scissors on them. And I also make a shelf for the table, and it worked. It really did work. I liked it. And I'm also going to make lots of little tiny bits to go with my platypus, or a Oh, it still works out as platypus if you take the beginning and the end. A platyoc? An octopus? Oh, I don't know what I'm going to call him. But in the story I call him Spud, after the person who actually gave me the idea. And I just thought it was a nondescript name for a creature. So you wouldn't guess what the creature was actually, what he would actually look like. This is to say thank you to my members. You all are awesome. Thank you for being here, and I appreciate everything that you have done with the watching, the liking, the commenting. Thank you to my subscribers for also doing the same and watching till the end, because that is what supports us the most. And just thank you, thank you, thank you. You rock. So now I'm using some foil, and I'm just smooshing it into a shape for the head, not the beak. Is it a beak? It is a beak, isn't it, on a platypus? Looks like a beak. They are funny creatures. Cute though. And now I am putting 6 legs on it, because I only need 6 legs, because he's going to have 2 arms, because like I said, his top half is his platypus, the bottom half is the octopus. Octopus, plume. Yeah, I don't know what way to call him. Spud will do. So I'm just poking holes and then put the wire in just to see where I need it to be. And these are the arms. I've made these shorter and twisted. I will put some sort of hand. I say hand, it's more shaped like a mitten. I think it looks more like a mitten. But yeah, because they've not got arms, have they? It's like a flipper, a furry flipper. Yeah. And now I'm just loosely putting this clay on just to cover that foil up and to start with my base. What I will do is wrap one leg and just show you one leg. You don't need to see me wrapping all the legs, because that's just ridiculous. It's the same thing over and over again. So I do end up, I think, taking these arms out at some point and doing them again, and that's the wrong tool because the end keeps falling out. So I grab that. I've shifted my stuff around again, and where I've put my clay tools, I can't quite reach them. You'd think I'd get myself organised before I start, but no, I only think about it when I'm doing it, because that's just me. So I'm smoothing all the clay around to hold the wire in and make sure it's in a nice, well, kind of head shape. Oh god, to be honest, I don't know where I was going with this. I looked at a platypus, I looked at an octopus and thought, oh god, what am I going to do here? So I decided just stick the head on and then have a bottom half of the octopus. It kind of works. I think it kind of works. And the easy way to get the wire around, the clay around the wire, is to make your sausage and then just push it through and then seal it and give it a little rub over so it don't look, you can't see the seal. Rolling it is always a good thing too, although I had pressed this a little bit too hard, and I have to take each leg out to make sure I can bend it into a shape I need, because he's going to be working on shoes, so he's basically going to be sat on the octopus butt. Do they have butts? Don't know, not sure, but yeah, his legs are going to be kind of up in the air. And now making the beak. This beak did not start off right. That beak's not the right shape, so I do faff with it a fair bit. The foil is there to give it some stability, and it really is quite fixed. Obviously I've baked it, so it would be, but it's quite cute. Well, I say quite cute. He's not supposed to be cute. I kind of think he is. See, I weren't sure whether to put him on the top of the actual table. But if I did that, then it kind of wouldn't work. Because where was I going to put all the stuff? And he needs to have a table to work on. So, the beak is tricky. And I faff and I faff and I faff. And obviously half this is off camera because I'm still faffing with angles and still not quite sure what I'm doing. Well, I've been at this over a year. You'd think I'd know what I'm doing by now. So any newbies out there, if you see somebody that looks all fantastic, most of the time that's not real, you know. Just do your own thing. You're alright. People will watch you. And if they don't, then you can look at your channel and think about it. But just chill, have fun with it. Now I'm just smushing it on and making it all nice and smooth. I will be putting some texture on this before I bake it, but I don't remember actually putting that into the video, so I do apologise. But I use like a 3-pronged stick. It is a clay tool, just to make it look a bit more furry. Well, sort of furry, because I wanted the legs and the octopus body to be smooth, but the top end to be looking furry-ish. And I had to go around the top of this because it just weren't working at the time. And it does look really good eventually. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bake him, paint him black, make some little bits and bobs to go with it, paint all that black, and then start going in with some colour, but not too much colour. I don't want him to look garish, but I do want him to have a bit of colour. But while that's happening, I'm going to be doing the story, and it's like another one that's kind of got a moral to it. There's that stick. I'm going to use that to kind of feather it out a bit. I think it's what you call feathering. Don't know what I'm doing here. So now I'm just using a little bit of alcohol just to smooth out his body. Although I don't know why I tried smoothing out the top, because I'm going to rough it up anyway. That was a very strange thing to do. But, you know, again, don't think. But a little bit of alcohol just helps. I mean, you could use baby oil. And you can use... what's the other thing you can use? Nope, that's gone. It's gone out of my head. But yeah, alcohol and baby oil to smooth it out. Mainly to get rid of fingerprints, but there's too much texture on here for fingerprints. So I'm going to leave you to listen to the story, and I hope you enjoy it. Spud's life began in a place where life was not meant to begin. Not in the cradle of a riverbank, not in the warmth of a nest, not in the boundless sea where his kind might have drifted and thrived. No, his first breath came in the sterile gloom of a government laboratory, where men in white coats whispered about progress and power, where the hum of machinery was louder than the birdsong, where nothing natural was allowed to grow without permission. He was an accident, manufactured on purpose, a chimera born not of love but of curiosity and cruelty. They call him a success when he survived his first day, then a disappointment when he failed every test that followed. He did not know his mother, he did not know a father. He only knew of the cage, a box shoved into the farthest corner of the lab, iron bars orange with rust, damp, always dripping down the walls, puddling into slick stains that never dried, the smell of mix of mildew, sour metal and the chemical bite of cleaning fluids that never washed away the grime. The floor was slippery, filmed with slime that clung to his tentacles. The air was heavy, still, always stale. Sometimes the hum of ventilation brought a gust of air faintly cooler, but it never smelled fresh. His food was slop. That was the only word for it. A grey paste that came in dented tins or shallow bowls, crusted over with old grease, slopped through the bars by hands that never lingered. It reeked of boiled grain, of meat scraped too close to the bone, of something left too long in storage and reheated until even the smell gave despair. When he dragged it toward him, it stuck to his tentacles in gluey clumps, coating his mouth with a sour tang that lingered no matter how many times he dipped himself in the bucket of water they provided. The bucket was no mercy either, rust-eaten and dented, filled with cloudy water that tasted faintly of metal. It was only meant to keep him alive, nothing more. And so he lived, cramped and lonely, a strange little creature with 6 tentacles sprouting from his body and 2 arms that ended in awkward platypus paws, with a head of a platypus. He could not stretch without hitting the bars. He could not curl too far without scraping rust. He could not sleep without smelling the slop. But worse than the cage were the guards. They came in shifts, boots echoing down the corridor, keys jangling like cruel bells. They never looked at him. They muttered as they passed, their voices low, careless, sometimes laughing, sometimes spitting words he did not understand, but felt they were sharp. He knew them not by their faces, for he dared not raise his eyes, but by their smell and their shoes. The smell was foul. Cigarettes soaked into coats, sweat that never quite dried, leather oiled until it glistened. The shoes, though. Ah, the shoes. That was his only treasure in that place. Shoes always polished, always gleaming, even as the rest of them reeked of decay. He saw them through lowered lids, through lashes wet with fear. When he dared peek from the shadow of the cage, black leather boots so smooth they caught the dim light of the lab lamps and sent it back like small suns. Sometimes brown, laced up tight, sometimes soft loafers on the feet of scientists, squeaking faintly as they walked past his cage. To Spud, they were magic. Shoes were freedom. Shoes carried people far beyond the cage, down corridors, upstairs, and out into a world he could only smell in whispers through the slit of a high window. That window gave him his first dreams. On still nights when the lab fell silent, he could hear the gulls. Their cries cut sharp and wild to the stale air, and if the wind shifted just right, it brought with it a scent, salt, brine, the ocean. The sea. He could not see it, but he could imagine it. Vast and open, alive and rolling. Rolling water enough to drown the entire lab, if only it would surge inside. He dreamed of dipping all his tentacles into that water, of feeling himself lifted by waves instead of pressed down by bars. He dreamed of breathing air that was not chemical and mould. He dreamed of shoes, not to wear, but to make, to stitch, to polish, to create. If shoes carried freedom, then perhaps he could give freedom to others by crafting them. But dreams were dangerous in his cage. The experiments were endless. Needles, wires, tubes of fluid forced into his veins. They probed his brain, shocked his nerves, cut into his flesh. He learned quickly that crying out only made it worse. Better to curl tight and endure. Better to swallow screams. Each failure the scientist muttered about became another scar on his body, another hollow space in his chest where hope tried to live. They called him subject. They called him hybrid. They called him failure. Never Spud. He gave himself that name in secret, whispering it when he dared, because even a creature like him deserved a name. One day, through the slit of the window, he heard a phrase that chilled him more than any cold. "Disposal list," a voice said. "This one's next. Nothing left to get from it." Spud froze in his cage, his tentacles tightening around his body as though he could squeeze the words away. Disposal? He had heard it before. He had seen other cages emptied, their inhabitants dragged away. The screams echoed down the corridor, rising sharp, then cut short. No one ever returned from disposal. It was the long goodbye, the end. And Spud did not want to end. Not there, not like that. That night when the guard came, something inside him changed. The man stomped closer, his boots polished so brightly they gleamed even in the gloom. Spud stared at them, mesmerized. They were perfect. They carried power. For years he had only cowered, curled tight whenever those boots came near. But this night, as the cage door creaked open, Spud's tentacles twitched with something stronger than fear. He reached. One trembling limb brushed the leather, smooth, warm, alive. The guard snarled, lifted his foot to kick, and Spud lunged. His body burst from the shadows, tentacles wrapping round the guard's leg, his torso, his face. The man bellowed, flailing, clawing at the massive limbs. But Spud was small and fast and desperate. He coiled tighter, blinding him, steering him like a puppet. The man staggered backward, slammed against the bars, and with a sickening crack, his skull met iron. The guard collapsed, boots twitching faintly, then still. Spud froze, his heart racing like a storm. He'd never fought back. He'd never dared. He stared at the man's shoes, gleaming still in the dim light, and he knew this was his only chance. The cage was open. With shaky tentacles he fumbled at the guard's belt until the keys jingled into his grip. He dragged himself into the corridor, leaving the cage behind, leaving the rust, the slop, stink. The air was wider here, though still sour. He could hear voices somewhere distant. He could smell the ocean, faint but stronger. He hurried, tentacles slapping wetly against the concrete floor. He reached the heavy door at the end of the hall. His limbs trembled as he tried key after key, the metal slipping in his grip. Voices grew louder, his heart hammered, then click. The lock gave way. The door swung open. Night air poured in, cold and wild, full of salt and gulls and the crash of waves. But this time, for the first time, Spud saw the sky, black, vast, endless, littered with stars that blinked like watchful eyes. His tentacles quivered. Freedom was only one step away. He stumbled forward onto the rocky cliff, clumsy but desperate. The ground tilted beneath him and he fell. The sea caught him. It was icy, shocking, burning every scar on his body, but alive in a way nothing in the lab had ever been. His tentacles spread wide, curling and fanning with strength he never knew he had. The waves tossed him, but he fought them, twisting, turning, leaning as he went. The bucket had been a mockery. This was real. He swam. He swam through storms that raged with lightning and thunder, waves tall as mountains crashing down to bury him. He swam past predators whose teeth gleamed in the dark, sharks circling with cold hunger, their shadows massive beneath him. He curled into spirals, darting away, hiding in whirlpools of his own limbs. He clung to driftwood when exhaustion gnawed at him. He dove deep when seabirds hunted from above. The sea tried to claim him as surely as the lab had, but Spud refused. He had endured too long to give up now. At night, when the waters calmed, he floated on his back, his 6 tentacles spread like a crown, his 2 platypus arms crossed over his chest. He stared at the stars and dreamed. He dreamed of shoes that would not just carry people away, but carry them to joy. Shoes that would outlast storms, that would comfort tired feet, that would sparkle with stories etched into their seams. Shoes that could make him more than a failed experiment. Weeks passed and hunger burned his belly. Salt encrusted his skin, but he pressed on. Until at last, one dawn land rose from the horizon. A dock stretched into the sea, its planks weathered and creaking as fishermen hauled nets heavy with silver fish. The air smelled of smoke and tar and brine, and everywhere shoes, muddy boots, cracked sandals, worn leather, caked with salt. Shoes trampled across the dock, carrying lives, carrying freedom. Spud's heart surged. This was where his dream would begin. He hid beneath the dock, in shadows and seaweed, watching and waiting. At night he slithered out, collecting scraps, broken laces, torn leather, bent nails, cloth soaked in fish oil. With his 6 tentacles he stitched and twisted, his 2 platypus arms hammering clumsily but determined. His first creations were crooked, strange, unwearable things. Boots with too many laces, sandals that flopped and tore, shoes that no human would dare put on their feet. But Spud did not give up. Each night he tried again. His tentacles learned the feel of leather, the tension of thread, the curve of soles. His platypus arms steadied, guided, grew strong. Soon, shoes left on the dock overnight began to return mended, stitched together tighter, soles replaced, leather softened. The dock workers whispered of the dock cobbler, an unseen helper who fixed shoes in the night. Children left their scuffed shoes out and found them whole again by morning. Sailors swore their boots lasted longer after passing through unseen hands, and one morning, when dawn painted the sea gold, Spud dared to show himself. A fisherman, kind-eyed and weary, had left his boots on the dock. The soles cracked, the stitching frayed. When he returned, he found them whole again, and beside them, Spud, small and strange, his tentacles twitching nervously, a tiny hammer clutched in one platypus paw. The fisherman froze. Spud puffed out his chest. "I fix shoes," he said, his voice bubbling like the sea. "Please let me stay." The man stared, then slowly he laughed. Not cruelly, not harshly, but warmly, like a wave breaking soft against the shore. "Then stay you shall, little cobbler." And from that day forward, Spud was no failure. He became the cobbler of the dock, the shoemaker of the sea, with 6 tentacles sewing and stitching, and 2 platypus arms hammering and shaping. He worked furiously, joyfully. His shoes were not just shoes, they were wonders. Boots that hugged tired feet like a friend, slippers so soft they felt like walking on air. Children's shoes painted with patterns of waves and gulls, each pair the story of freedom. Word spread. Sailors carried his shoes across oceans. Merchants whispered of the cobbler with too many hands. Some called him a monster. Others called him a marvel. Spud did not care. He was useful. He was alive. He was free. And one evening when the sun sank into the horizon and gulls wheeled overhead, Spud lined up the shoes he had finished that day. He polished them until they shone, each gleam a memory of the polished shoes he had once worshipped through bars. Only now those shoes carried joy, not cruelty. And so the creature who had been marked for disposal, who had only known misery and slop and rust, became something greater than his makers ever dreamed. For he became Spud, the shoemaker, the greatest cobbler the world had ever known. So what did you think to the story? Was it sad? Did it have a happy ending? Does the creature look like what you thought he would look like from the story? Platypus head, spotty octopus legs, sat with his little wooden bench and his pieces of leather, bits of string and shoes. I must admit, I looked at the idea that Spud put in and it was like, what the hell am I going to do with that? I kept thinking, why would you mash up an animal? What would be the reasoning behind mashing up an animal? And then I got into conspiracy theories and thought, well, maybe it was the government. Maybe the government wanted to see if they could find some sort of healing properties from mashing up animals together, and then realising that he was not going to be what they wanted, disposal time. That could also be for people. You know, when you realise they're not exactly what you thought they were, it's time to just let go. But sometimes they need that as much as you do, so they can thrive, you can thrive. That's kind of the moral to this story. Don't just think somebody's for the knacker's yard. Somebody's always good for something. We've all got our own talents. So, if you did like that story, please give me a thumbs up and let me know if there's anything you'd like me to do. I have only got a couple more ideas left from what was on my post, so all ideas are welcome. Admitting one's going to be a Christmas one, so that's going to be a while yet. So yeah, what are your thoughts? I shall take some photos and I shall see you all in the next one. And hopefully I can think up a story for that one too. Because I'm quite enjoying making these stories. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!